Hi, I'm Johnny Marques, and welcome to the All Knowing Podcast. We all have people we admire, heroes, people we look up to, people we try to emulate. At the All Knowing, we look into people's personalities by using different systems such as numerology, astrology, and life charts. A deep dive in a persona, if you will. It is our hope that we can help break down what makes a person, who they are, their traits, their actions, and their possible beliefs. And in doing so, help you understand if you have similar virtues. If you like the show, don't forget to push like. Or if you have someone that you want us to do a life chart on, please leave it in the comments. Thank you for watching and enjoy the show.
Okay.
Hey there, welcome to another exciting, informative adventure of a show called The All-Knowing Experience. Today I am joined by Sally Faubion. How are you, Sally?
Very good.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so today we decided to do a figure that is really well known on the internet. He was born August 11th, 1967 in Newark, New Jersey. He's a comedian, a UFC commentator, a podcaster with an enormous following. We are looking into Joseph James Rogan. August 11th makes him a Leo. A little bit about him is that he's the host of the Joe Rogan Experience, which has millions and millions of followers. A little bit of his background is when he was a child at 7, he moved to San Francisco, and he was with his mom. They got divorced. His parents got divorced. And when he was 11, he moved to Florida and then moved to Newton, Mass, where he graduated high school. He got involved in martial arts as a teenager. He was in Massachusetts full contact champion for 4 consecutive years and became an instructor. He retired at 21 and moved away from Boston at 24. At a young age, he became attracted to comedy after seeing a Richard Pryor special. His first performance was in 1988 at an open mic night at Stitches Comedy Club in Boston. And while doing comedy, he worked as a limo driver, construction, delivering papers, and assisting a private investigator. In 1990, Rogan moved to New York City. In 1994, he moved to Los Angeles. He did an MTV half-hour comedy show, which led to a Disney deal, and he also was performing at a place called the Comedy Store as a paid regular by the world-famous Mitzi Shore. He performed at the store for the next 13 years for free, and he even paid for their sound system. From 95 to 99, Joe was on an NBC show called News Radio. From 1997 to 2006, he was a post-fight interviewer for UFC. In 1999, he started a blog on his website. In 2001, hosted a show called Fear Factor, which ran to 2006 with countless projects and comedy specials. In 2009, he launched this podcast. In 2015, it had been downloaded 11 million times. On May 19th, 2020, he signed a multi-year deal with Spotify for $200 million. So not loose change on that one. He's married to Jessica Ditzel in 2009. He has 2 daughters from Ditzel, and he also adopted a daughter from Ditzel, and he's an advocate for cannabis, DMT, mushrooms, ayahuasca, for the enhancement of consciousness. He's an avid hunter and continues to host UFC and his podcast, which has hundreds of millions of views. He is considered one of the most powerful voices in media in his search for truth and for information past and present. And with that mouthful, I pass you on to Sally to find out what makes Joe Rogan Joe Rogan. Sally?
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I can concur with what you're saying there, because when I first ran his chart, I was very impressed with the numbers that came up for me, because I saw immediately that he is someone who really has a very sensitive association with people and nature and all of that. I mean, he has elevated numbers. In other words, his name number is the 5, which gives him all that kind of energy. And he is a workaholic. I mean, I can see that this man very rarely takes time to just lay back and have some pleasure. But he may get that with his hunting. I don't know. But certainly in the challenge position that I have in the chart, it shows that he's just all about being there and making things happen. And his motivation number is the 22, which is a master number. And he's born on the 11th, which is another master number. The 11 is the number of the peacemaker, the arbitrator, mediator, but it's also elevated from the standpoint that he has a very high intuition, like he can intuit things very quickly and maybe even kind of psychically from others, and perhaps even animals for that matter. Wow. And then also
I like that. I like what you mentioned about the 11. The 11 again was the peacemaker, if you watch his podcast, I mean, that is exactly what he is. I mean, he doesn't strongly take sides. He's just there to communicate, uplift, and learn. So that's very fascinating, those details that you just said.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that he has a 6 destiny, and the 6 is one where he has his morals and ethics, and he would feel very strongly about them, but usually they have to do with how much are people helping other people, or how much do people help the earth, how much do people help animals, that kind of thing, because the 6 is a number of humanitarian, well, it's not just humanitarianism, but it is actually the primary number of that, I should say. I was trying to think of another word that it's called, but it is humanitarian. And so he has that aspect, plus the number 22, which is, as I said, another master number, which is the number of someone who just, I mean, they have a mission. It's a mission and it's an elevated mission to help society, to help nature, all of those kinds of things. And it would elevate him, both his 11 and his 22 would elevate him wherever he took himself, mainly also because he is always there. I mean, he will show up and he does what he loves to do and will stay until, it falls into the night, I would say. He also has some ups and downs that came from his childhood, but those things sometimes buoy someone up or help them to become better than they might have been without the challenges that they had in their childhood. So that's what I find with many people. He also, I think he was missing a parent or something, is what his chart shows me. I'm not sure about that. I didn't investigate that.
I mentioned it. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he
Okay,
was
well,
with his mom. So
okay,
dad wasn't there all the time.
he did miss that. He did feel different from other kids and so on. But as he moved into his years of power, as they're called, he found his way. But he also has, with his years of power, a tremendous sensitivity to everything. I mean, that's one of the reasons I would think that he not only has the eloquence that he would probably exhibit in his program, but he also has the empathy, compassion, honesty too. Honesty would be huge to him, I would say.
Right.
What people say.
One of the things that he repeated a few times in the research that I did is that one of the things that drove him was that he was afraid of, for lack of a better word, being the loser. You know, like he didn't want to be that guy like years later that was a loser. So that guided him and inspired him to make something of himself. So I found that kind of fascinating. That self-drive.
And I haven't listened to his program, unfortunately, but I would say that he also has this kindness about him that draws his audience to him more because of his, not only his 11 and 22, but the 6 as well, because they are all, the 11 and 22 are very elevated spirit, as a spirit, meaning he came in with an ability to make a difference, really.
Right.
In a major way.
And what do you see as far as discipline? Because definitely, I mean, he definitely, the things that he chooses in life. I mean, he often talks about pool, hunting, martial arts, and all these things take a tremendous amount of discipline, which seems that he is well disciplined.
Yes, he'd be well disciplined, and he'd also be someone who would help others to emulate what he is, his example, if they're interested enough, and so on, because he definitely has a need to serve and help people. And the 11 is also, it's just that it's such an intuitive number that he can like look across the room. One of the things that I tell people that have the 11 is that many times you can feel very crowded because you're picking up, like if you stand in a grocery line and everybody's impatient, he will pick up on all the other people's impatience because that's how high tuned that 11 is. And so sometimes it can drive somebody nuts, but basically he also has the 6 where he would look to see, how can we make this better? How can I fix this? Maybe I'll get in the front of the line or something, or the back of the line, whatever. I mean, I'm just making up things with that.
Right.
But also having the 22, the master builder, and he certainly did that with his podcast. I mean, it's masterful, and it's also a workaholic number. So I know it very well. I have that as my destiny number. So it's very much, showing up on time, doing what you say you'll do, and really doing it better than most because of the obsession of putting yourself in that position in the first place.
Excellent. So going forward, are you seeing bigger and better things? Are you seeing what do you see? Because
Well,
I mean, how much bigger can you get? I mean, the guy's has the #1 podcast and definitely has a voice in reporting or in society, whatever you want to call it. So I mean, just a super fascinating individual with everything that he gets involved with. I mean, even the subjects that he chooses for his show, they're all over the place.
Yeah, well, he's going on very well now. He did go through a phase in his life that was quite difficult for him, from 2010 to 2016. And of course, that had the pandemic in it. But now he's just flying high. I mean, major high for years, I can see. You know, he has a little pocket of challenges, I call them, as he gets up into his mid 60s, but it's nothing major. I mean, then he goes on again to just soar. You know, so the guy knows how to bring himself to the top, even if he's pulled down a bit by whatever it is. He knows how to pull himself up.
Right.
And yeah, so I would say to know him would be to just know an extraordinarily interesting. I don't know to call him brilliant necessarily, but he can be that too, with the 11 and the 22 as well, very definitely. And also the 5, as his personality number, enables him to be very quickly turn from one thing to another and even master them very quickly, actually, because it's a kind of a very speedy number. He likes things bada boom, bada bang. Let's get this done. You know, we want to go for it and get it done.
Right.
And so I call it the bada boom, bada bang number.
No, definitely someone who has a tremendous amount of thirst for knowledge. And if he's interested in it, he has them on his show. He picks their brain and sucks up the knowledge to the point where, I mean, he can speak as a expert himself. So I mean, quite a fascinating guy that he is, and it's just a curiosity that I've had since I started doing the show to learn more about him.
Well, another thing that I'd like to say is childhood being as difficult as it was. Now, it was that up until he was around 11, oddly enough, because he has that 11 also is very strong for him. And then I think he just started soaring then too, when he was that young, which would have been from 11 clear until, I mean, he really didn't have any major problems until he was around 28 or 29. Just those 2 years. For years, he just was on, he had a target and he was going for it, you know?
Right.
And then he became very famous when he was like 32, 35. He had the fame number there, which is the 3811. And that is, you know, it's just going to take him there. You know,
probably doing the UFC, commentating, the Fear Factor. I know he had a TV show that did well for a couple of years. So yeah, definitely started his trajectory. I had a question when you were speaking. Do you think, you know, like we hear it time and time again that people with difficult childhoods, do you think that that's an inspiration? Do you think that drives people?
It's an inspiration one way or the other. I mean, I don't know if this is the best thing to say in this milieu, but I run all the shooters that go in and shoot in the schools and so on, and they have heinous childhoods, heinous.
Right.
And they've been damaged, very, very damaged, I would say. I don't think he was really damaged. He just had more of a, maybe I wish I had a dad too, like everybody else kind of thing or something. But I think he had a very good mom. So I mean, that's part of what got him to be able to rise to the level that he was when he got into his teens. But I think when you're younger and the kids say, you know, they're doing things with their dad and stuff, I think that was a little hard on him. But he didn't have the really heinous numbers that I see in the kids that really do the damage out there and so on. And so it was just a little more of a, I think maybe, you know, a sadness of sorts. I don't know whether his father was around at all. It doesn't look like it. It looks like he had to kind of make his own way, but he had the 19 in the first phase of life too, which is another self-starter number. So it's kind of like if he found something that he liked, he was going to do it well, and especially with the other numbers combined. So, you know, he had a lot of things going for him, even though there was that bit of difficulty in his childhood, which I would put almost entirely to the fact that his father was missing from his life
Right,
a great
right.
deal of the time.
So
at
it's
least.
almost like the old adage, you get the lemons and depends what you do with them, you know? You make
Yeah,
lemonade or, you know, unfortunately, some of the research that you've done, you do heinous things. So it's
right.
quite fascinating. I'm glad,
But
I'm
he
glad
also
that,
has such high numbers. You know, when I saw that with the childhood, see, those that go and become the shooters don't have his numbers. I mean, they don't have the 11s and the 22s and the 6. The
right,
6 is a humanitarian number, and he can't help but be that, you know, because the destiny number is one that is the most powerful. And so it just will cause him to always feel compassion and empathy for Mother Nature, for animals, for people who are hurting, and so on. And he
right,
will have, you know, if people go against the kind of rules that he feels are right, then he doesn't have a lot of empathy or compassion for them,
right,
because 6s can be very set in the way that they see how things should be, and their shoulds are pretty important to them. But
right,
basically, with the 11 and 22, he's going to be a guy that will pretty much acclimate or adapt to anybody that comes to him, that, you know, or he sees that he needs to go talk to, and it'd come out fine because of the way that he can manage people, I would say.
right. So I'm noticing also, what do you see as far as he, you know, I mean, he's very successful in what he does. I mean, obviously with that huge contract that he got, you know, money's not an issue, but he's not into, you know, he's a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy. You know, what are you seeing about, you know, for lack of a better term, he's a normal Joe.
Well, his motivation number, which is the combination of his 3 primary numbers, is the 22, which can be reduced to the 4, which is a very down to earth, no funny business kind of, I don't think I'm any better than anybody else kind of dude,
Ah,
you know?
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I mean, that's a nice summation of what makes Joe Rogan Joe Rogan. Thank you for putting it all together and letting us know. Uh,
Yeah, it was kind of fun for me. I mean, I was very impressed with his chart. Very, very impressed. Yeah.
excellent.
You
Okay.
know his whole background and stuff like that, but I can see how he could take himself there for sure.
Wow. Okay. So, well, thank you, Sally. Appreciate the work that you do. And don't forget, if you like what you see, push the like button and also subscribe, as it helps the channel. And once again, thank you, Sally. And we'll see you next time on the All Knowing Podcast.